And then before he goes, gives him some wine and some brandy for the road and a little money, and sends him on his way. And so he made it back to England. We never found out the name of this guy.
That's quite a story.
Yeah.
It's an interesting story, don't you think?
That's a nice way to put it. That's not the way I would have put it, but that's a nice way to put it. Interesting.
Well, yeah. But it accounts for a lot. I mean, it's unfortunate that 3 people were killed, but what could he do? He was a slave back in Turkey, so
right.
And so hey, what's a guy gonna do, right? And well, that's it. It's like the story actually was not that well received. A lot of people, frankly, I don't know if anybody believed it.
I don't think anybody does to this day.
I don't believe it.
And people have been wondering ever since, and that's why this story is usually called the Camden Wonder. That is the official name. Because it makes everybody wonder what the hell happened. Obviously, the story is a bit questionable about slavery and everything, so the mystery is here. What really happened to William Harrison? Where did he go? His hat comb and bloody shirt collar were really found in the road, for real. And so did they fall off during his abduction, assuming his story was real? Or did Harrison plant him there to fake his own death?
And what the hell was Perry doing?
Why the hell did Perry claim he planted them there?
Yeah.
I mean, if Harrison did fake his death and run off to start a new life, then where did he go? Why did he do it? Well, and why the hell did he come back?
Yeah.
And also, of course, I've already said this, but why did John Perry confess to a murder that never happened? So that's why
it's weird, right?
This is why it's called The Wonder, because it's freaking...
I wonder why.
There's lots of wondering happening.
Yeah. And I looked at a few details here. I'll just mention them. Rumor has it Harrison's wife committed suicide by hanging right after he came back.
We don't know if that happened, actually.
We don't know for sure that happened. And like any one of these things, I mean, certain things do get added to the story. Another one was that in her possessions after she died, there was a letter from William Harrison, found in her possessions that was dated after his disappearance. Again, don't know if that's true or not.
Right.
But if those things are true, then it certainly adds to the intrigue, don't you think?
Yeah.
How he comes back and she killed herself? Wow. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I wanted to give a hat tip to a guy named Peter Clifford. We will link to his website, but this is a guy who is...
It's chock full of information.
Oh, yeah, he's done some serious historical research on this mystery. I mean, he's definitely gotten down in the weeds. He's not a tinfoil hat guy at all. Good website. But hat tip to Peter. Thank you.
Peter, stop using bold font, though.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, good point. So, yeah, that's our mystery. What the hell really happened? So it's now, as you know, time for the theories. But first, let's take a break.
You look into your wardrobe and realize, I think somebody else bought all these clothes for me. Is my closet haunted? Oh man, I have to get rid of all these clothes and get new ones. The good news is Daily Look is here to help. Daily Look is an online premium personal styling service for women that sends hand-picked fashion items right to your door. Sounds like the perfect solution for you ladies who don't have any time to shop. Exactly! All you have to do is fill out a style profile and start to build a one-on-one relationship with you and your stylist. Then your stylist will handpick up to 12 items of quality clothes and accessories from premium brands like J Brand, Rag & Bone, and many more, plus new emerging designers. You even get a chance to review your box before it's sent so you can make changes. Keep what you love and return what you don't. It's completely hassle-free. So, you have no obligation to buy? That's right! Shipping is even free both ways. It's convenient, fun, and easy to look your best. So, you can spend your time doing what really matters to you, like cleaning out that haunted closet. Get styled today by going to dailylook.com and clicking Get Started. Don't forget to use the code SIDEWAYS to get $10 off your first box. That's dailylook.com, offer code SIDEWAYS.
And we're back. So let's delve into theories here. First, well, let's start from the top here. Here's a theory. The returned William Harrison was an imposter.
Oh, like Bobby, what's his name?
Yeah. There's been a bunch of them. Who was that guy that was in that movie? Was that Bobby Dunbar or something like that? Yeah, something like that. It's happened. I mean, there's been a lot of stories like that. Usually it's a little kid that's brought back and reunited with his family, and if the kid disappeared at age
Not
1.
a 70-year-old man.
Yeah, and his wife was, of course, still alive, at least long enough to hang herself, if you believe that story. So I don't really buy this one. Of course, unless maybe old Harrison had a twin somewhere. But even then,
wait, is this an actual theory out there that
I think anytime there's something like this happens, or there's at least somebody's going to be saying, well, could he be an imposter?
Yeah, I have a theory about this, actually.
Yeah.
It was that they never found the body, but it was really well preserved, and then the ghost of one of the Perry brothers came back and inhabited the body and just took over his life.
Just to mess with people's heads?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea.
Wow, that's not witchy at all.
It was Joan, you're right, it was Joan.
It could have been Joan. Joan actually did that.
One of the boys could have been a witch, you don't know.
Yeah.
Warlock.
That's a warlock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Good point.
Which is it?
Ha.
Yeah, I don't think it was Joan and her witchery, because she probably would have just messed with everybody's heads a lot more. Like, isn't it really a shame that you strung those 3 people up just over me, silly old me? Isn't it a shame? I mean, he was constantly messing, and as far as I know, that didn't happen because nobody shot him.
So what's our next one?
Well, next theory, slave.
Oy.
Which totally explains everything. I mean, you got to admit, but even at the time, a lot of people found the story kind of hard to swallow, because why the hell would anybody kidnap him? He was 70 years old, not exactly, prime material for the slave market.
He's not exactly on the coastline where he's in easy nabbing distance.
Well, he's
for slavers.
From where he was like a good 100 miles at least, if not more, from the town of Deal. And of course, with the roads in those days, it was not a straight shot, so much more than that on horseback.
Yeah, a lot of England is 100 miles away from the coastline.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of slavery. There were actually ships raiding the English coast and grabbing slaves. It was not
white slavery was totally a thing, but not that far inland.
No, definitely. Yeah, and so that's one reason to wonder about this. It was also, another part of the story I really didn't like is he had this guy who befriended him in Lisbon and really basically saved him. I mean, took care of him, got him passage on a ship and gave him money and all that stuff.
Yet he never named the guy.
And he never said who the guy was. That's weird, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's weird that, 70. 70's pretty old for this time.
To be enslaved? Yeah.
For
that.
Just for humans.
You're not good working material.
No, you're not a good... You mean, you could catch sick and die immediately.
Oh, yeah.
At the drop of a hat. Why would anybody invest any money in somebody
slave
of that age?
Yeah, I know. So the whole idea for that is ludicrous. And a lot of people at that time felt the same way. But, he had to invent something, though, because supposing he did have scam with the rent money and went to shack up with his girlfriend a few counties over, he would have had a lot to answer for, because 3 people had been killed over this whole deal.
Yeah.
So he had to come up with some sort of a story. And so, he made up a story that, accounted for everything. But frankly, I think he did make this story up. It can't possibly be true.
I agree.
I mean, I just don't think so. I don't think that that's a possibility.
Slavers coming in 100 miles from the coastline and then stealing a man who is going to cost them more to keep alive and put on the auction block than he's going to fetch on the auction block.
Yeah.
Does not make any sense.
I agree.
It really doesn't. Although there is one possibility.
Okay.
There is a possibility, and that is that William Harrison's son, Edward, actually staged the abduction because he wanted his father out of the way, because he wanted his dad's job as steward of the Viscountess's estate, because that was a nice job, and he felt like he would inherit the job if his dad disappeared.
Did he?
No, I don't know this. There's actually no record that he did. If he did, he didn't do it for very long, because I know there is a record of another steward who started the job no later than 1665.
Yeah, it just kind of seems like the Viscountess would be like, I don't know, this is another guy I trust.
Yeah, it could be.
Wouldn't just be like, oh yes, the son, of course, he will do it.
Yeah, the son does not necessarily.
Particularly if he got murdered or disappeared in some weird circumstance, right?
Yeah, and then the son, of course, not being totally heartless, he doesn't want his dad killed, so he just has these guys abduct him and sell him into slavery and stuff.
Because slavery doesn't kill people at all.
Slavery
That's
is
totally a nice way to get dad out of the way.
Totally healthy experience. Actually, especially at 70 years old, he was lucky he didn't die on the ship.
Yeah.
If he was actually on the ship.
Even on the horse
If he was actually on a ship.
If he was actually on a ship, because, a lot of people didn't survive sea voyages.
Frankly, at 70, I'm kind of shocked he survived walking to a different town all the time.
And
I'm not saying, to be clear, I'm not saying 70 now is insanely old. My parents are almost 70. I'm sorry, Mom and Dad, for telling everybody that. But 70 is like nothing.
This is 400 years ago.
This is 400 years ago. 70 was kind of like
120.
70
It was pretty old.
It was incredibly old back in those days. Yeah, I mean, most people died about, what, age 35?
I'm sure we're going to get a lot of
45.
emails where people are like, it wasn't that old, calm down, but it was.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Yeah.
I think the median age was 45 to 50. Was about the average length that you could expect to live and die normally, barring any accidents or diseases or whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
he was well outside of the bell curve.
Yeah, no, yeah, and he didn't die till 1672, so he lived to be 82 years old.
That's pretty good.
Right, so yeah, he was an outlier.
He was even farther off of the bell curve.
Yeah.
This is why you don't grade on the bell curve, because guys like this throw it off.
I know. It
Okay.
screws everything up.
So
damn
this
it.
theory is that his son.
So his son
organized it.
arranges his abduction so he can take his job, which would actually, okay, so that makes sense of this whole thing. You're saying, why would they take this guy 120 miles inland and take him all the way to the coast? Well, it was a special order.
They were paid extra to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that would
Special
explain
order.
that. Yeah, I know, special order. Yeah. But for the
Also,
problem
I'm sorry. I have to pause for a second. Did you say it's bunkerific?
Yes.
Great.
Bunkerific,
I did.
I like
Keep
that
going,
one.
sorry.
Yeah, okay. No,
Is it not?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. The only problem I have with this series, it would have been really expensive to arrange this whole thing.
Yeah.
Plus, his co-conspirators, 3 guys on horseback, to name just 3, would never blabbed,
Yeah.
which is really helpful, especially after this. Because this story actually got a fair amount of circulation. It was a big story.
I mean,
They
I
may
guess.
not have been local, though.
Yeah, I was going to
Maybe,
say,
yeah.
if they were slavers that kind of were in the coast or even like in the Mediterranean most of the time, if I were hiring someone to abduct one of you guys, for instance, it would not be
that would
somebody
ever
who
happen.
lives locally.
So, by the way,
Yeah.
let me give you my new address. It's totally different than my old address.
I don't
Just in
believe
case
you.
you try to hire somebody out.
Maybe I'll
Yeah.
just give them both of
The
them.
tunnel under my house. That's where I'm living now.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Nice, safe place to live. I don't blame you. I'm going to get me
It's
one of
cozy.
them. Yeah. Oh, where were we? Oh, yeah. So Edward Harrison had his father abducted. And the problem I have with this series, it would have been so much easier just to poison him. Really, because if the guy
Yeah, just knock him off.
as we just said, the guy was 70 years old. If he poisoned him and he just keeled over and died, nobody would think twice.
Yeah.
Seriously, not at all. There wouldn't have been an inquest. There wouldn't
Unless he
have been an
smelled the
autopsy.
chloroform.
Yeah. Stack of chloroform or arsenic or
I don't know.
strychnine.
Even then, apparently, you can just pump it into someone's stomach and nobody cares.
You can just dump brandy down their throat and
Yeah.
cover it up.
It's
Yeah.
great.
All right, so you guys, what do you think? Do you want to dwell any more on Edward
No.
Harrison doing
It's
this?
bunkerific.
That's bunkerific. Oh,
It's
we
our
got
new
a new word.
tagline.
All right. Let's move on
You're
to the next
welcome.
theory. William Harrison faked his death, took the rent money that he had collected that day, and ran off to start a new life. What do you guys think?
I would.
Yeah, why not?
This is my theory. This is my preferred theory.
I agree.
It's actually makes more sense than the last 3 that we talked about.
I think
Yeah.
it actually makes more sense than all of the theories that you have in this text that we're looking at. Because, listen, this old man knows how much money he collects on a regular basis. He's been doing it for a long time. And he probably is sick and tired of it all. And there have been days where I was like, you know what, if I came into a couple of $1,000 in bonus cash, I might just walk.
I'm going to tell your wife that.
Yeah, fine, she knows. But the point is that I can see a guy in this day and age be like, oh my God, I can have 400 pounds. I could live like a king forever on 400 pounds.
Wow.
Not realizing that it's only going to actually last him a year,
Well,
but he's like, woohoo!
He probably thought, hey,
I guess-
I'm 70. I've only got a couple of years to live. I'm going to go off and do something fun.
I would go back and forth on that because it kind of feels like to me his job is to collect taxes. He probably gets paid. I would assume that he gets paid more than the taxes are, or at least a
Probably
fair
not
wage
more.
enough to incentivize him not to steal the taxes, right?
Well, there's that whole beheading thing.
Well, I mean, I think that I don't know. I'm totally talking out of my butt right now, to be totally honest
That's
with
cool.
everybody.
Okay.
But I would just think that he would know the actual value of the money that he had. You know what I mean? Where you would want your tax collector to be educated on how far 400 pounds actually goes, or be paying him an annual salary that is close enough or halfway. I know, I see that you
It
are
doesn't-
like mad about this. It just makes
Yeah.
sense. To me, it makes sense that you would pay that person that amount of money or help them understand how little, quote unquote, it is, just because you don't want them taking off with it.
Joe, I have a question.
Yeah.
Was this his only duty?
No, actually, as a steward, he had all kinds of other duties, and so I don't know why he was just being the regular.
So this was not the sole thing that he would do.
No, not at all.
So therefore, I don't believe that he would have been educated in that financial background that you're implying there. I think that it was a position that he had earned the trust of his employer enough to be given. I mean, really, all you need for that job is to prove that you don't steal.
Fair enough.
Can you read? Can you know how much is written on the ledger that they owe? And can you come back with it to the single pence?
Yeah.
Yes, job
Great.
done.
Yeah.
How long had he been doing this for?
Probably a long time.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean,
Decades?
yeah, I mean, he'd been doing the job, as my understanding. He's been doing it for decades, yeah. And by the way, his job was not just tax collector.
Right.
As steward, he was managing the
Yes.
estate.
Right.
So he had a managerial job.
So that's my thing, is that if it's a managerial
he
job,
wasn't
he may have been a
necessarily-
middle manager. And if we know anything, middle managers get bored.
It's just,
Yeah.
And
it's
they
always.
just want to take it and run.
I just think it's like a weird timing. And
well,
he should have known that 400 pounds isn't going to get him that far.
Well, actually, it's not a weird timing. It's a perfect timing, because here's the thing. For the last, 11, 12 years, the crown has been in turmoil. Nobody knows what's going to go on.
Yeah.
And, oh, look, now they brought back Charles II, and it's all going to be peachy keen, except that's what they said when the last guy came on.
Fair enough.
And look what a crap show that turned into. You know what? I'm out of here. I mean, listen, you know as well as I do that about a year ago, when an election happened and all those people said, that's it, we're going to be expatriates, we're going to leave the country, we're going to live on our money in some other place because it's going to be way better, and then they didn't do it. But this guy may have had the same thought of, you know what? It's just going to be one more of the same with a new paint job, and I've seen it before, and I am out before it all burns down.
Actually, I believe that Harrison was a royalist, so he was like, so it's not, in other words, his side won.
Yeah,
Charles came back.
and that's. But he may have been like, he may not have thought that Charles II was the man for the job.
Or maybe he thought he wouldn't last. But here is where the restoration actually might factor into this, is that, and nobody actually knows the answer to this, and that is that all these people with these lands that who were collecting rent, when the Commonwealth went in and the Protectorate, essentially, because the whole royalty thing kind of just went away, they no longer were able to collect rents on their land for an extended period. And so one of the questions here is, when it's time to go out and collect the rent, do these people owe back rent for all those years?
12 or 15 years worth. Oh, that's a heavy toll.
Yeah.
And so is that the case? And so in that case, that he could have
then
actually,
yes, you would take all that money.
he could have actually hauled in quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
And of course, the problem with that is, if he collected that amount of money, then he would never dare to show his face back in Camden ever again.
Yeah.
Unless he. Well, I guess that's true, yeah.
Unless he yelled
I was going to
witch.
say, well, unless he knew that these people had been had been executed for his murder. But I guess it really makes more sense if they had been executed for his robbery, and he could come back and say, I was robbed and I was so scared and I ran away. And
I played dead. They thought they killed me. They threw me in a cesspool, but then after they left, I climbed back out.
I got
left the country.
better.
I went to France.
Yeah. Okay, so you're right. Yeah, I agree.
And it's this is my favorite of the ones. But again, we don't know. It probably realistically can collected all that back rent. Realistically speaking,
They couldn't have.
They couldn't have.
They could not have held them accountable for 10 or 12 years worth of back rent.
We're talking like when the monarchy was abolished in 1649, and now we're looking
49 to 60, so 11 or 12 years.
Yeah.
That would bankrupt the entire country. They knew they couldn't go that deep.
No,
they couldn't gouge it that
a little
deep.
too hard. But maybe just the regular haul from rents would have been enough to tempt him into leaving. I don't know, or I just don't know. And of course the other thing about it is that he had to have heard what happened in his absence. I mean, 3 people get executed for you being gone.
I don't know. I don't know that he would have had to have heard that, Joe.
Probably. I think the
Word
story got a lot
travels
of
very
publicity.
slow when there is no electronic communication.
Yeah. I just think it would have taken a lot of moxie, a lot of chutzpah, for him to come back after 3 people have been killed. I suppose maybe you're right. Maybe he didn't know that 3 people have been executed.
I really feel like he sauntered into town like, "Hey, I'm back, everybody! I got this great story."
Yeah.
People were, "Oh hell," and then spits
I
out
was kidnapped.
something.
What happened? I was kidnapped. It was the worst.
Yeah. And then I'm gonna add the details in later. Sorry.
Sorry.
I
I gotta go see my wife, who's gonna mysteriously hang herself.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why his wife hung herself. She didn't. He killed her.
Yeah, I mean it's possible.
Yeah, it could have been. So anyway, this is, as I say, so far my favorite theory, but it's got its issues too.
Yeah.
But again, that's why they call this The Wonder. There is no clear
There's
answer
all
here.
wondering. We should have just called this podcast The Wonder.
Yeah, The Wonder.
Dang it.
It's
Too
kinda
late
taken.
now.
There's a wonder thing out there that's already sort of taking it. We'd have been in the
really?
shadow.
Yeah. No Wonder sounds a little too, I don't know.
Familiar.
Yeah, screw that. All right, back to theories here.
All right,
It
what's
shall
our
be
next
called
theory?
Thinking Sideways.
Pretty
Yay!
much, yeah. Well, we got another theory or two here, so let's get on this. Well, one was that it's been hypothesized by historians and responsible people, not just your tinfoil hat types, but
AKA us.
yeah, exactly. It's been hypothesized that he was perhaps on some sort of a secret mission, and like for example, one would be his employers, so the Viscountess Camden was Juliana Noel. Her son, Sir Baptist Noel, was...
Sorry, that was his name.
Yeah, it was his name.
Baptist?
Yeah, I know. A weird...
Baptiste? No, probably Baptist.
Baptist, yeah. Baptiste is
yeah.
more Spanish.
Yeah, it's a terrible name, but maybe it was
French.
a cool name in there. Yeah.
It's also Spanish.
Anyway.
It was Baptiste. But anyway, Baptiste was known to be a party boy who had apparently fathered a bunch of illegitimate children. So the thinking along this line goes, maybe because, as I said, the Restoration happened. These people, a lot of their lands were sequestered. They had no income. A lot of their wealth was taken from them because of their associations with the monarchy.
Mm-hmm.
And so if he had all these illegitimate children floating around out there across Europe, he wasn't able to give them any money in the interim. And so now finally the Restoration happens. His lands are restored. He's got his wealth back. Now suddenly he's in a position to help out his kids. So
Right.
the thinking is that he maybe sent Harrison on a mission to actually take money to children, ex-girlfriends, whatever.
One, why Harrison? And two, where did the money suddenly appear from?
This is all a good question. I don't know. This is, like I said, just a theory.
Okay.
I mean, again, why Harrison? Why did you choose this 70-year-old guy? One reason, of course, would be...
He's trustworthy.
He was trustworthy. You know, he was a solid guy. But one of the problems I have with this, as far as him